We're learning more today about that tragic, horrific helicopter crash in Queensland, which killed 4 people, including a newlywed British couple and a Sydney mother near SeaWorld on the Gold Coast, and left 3 others really seriously injured. Terrible stuff. An early investigation suggests that one of the helicopters was taking off when its rotor blades collided with the cockpit of another helicopter, which was coming in to land. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by aviation expert Keith Tonkin. Keith, thank you so much for your time. You have 35 years' experience in the aviation industry. Can you provide any more insight into what you think at this very early stage, and I know these are early stages, and I don't want to force you to speculate on anything, but how this may have happened?
Oh, g'day, James. Yeah, and thanks very much for expressing that view about not speculating, because it's really important to the family and the loved ones and the friends and the colleagues and the witnesses of this accident that we don't speculate and that we find out the truth, and then only then do we start working out what happened. And so there's a lot to go before we're in a position to be able to do that. What we know is that the 2 helicopters collided. Why, we don't know yet, and there's a big task to undertake to get to that outcome.
So on the question of that task, though, I mean, this is going to be something that people are going to be very interested in. What will investigators be doing in terms of their investigation? I mean, I presume they've already recovered, I believe, the wreckage of both craft. I presume they'll be talking to witnesses, interviewing survivors, looking at all the footage they can get from people who may have had footage off the beach. Do these helicopters have black boxes like airliners have? What else will they be looking at? What will they be doing? How will their investigation proceed?
For sure. So the ATSB, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, has to collect a lot of information, and that's the starting point before they start working out what it means. And we heard from the chief of the ATSB today telling us all about those things that they need to do. Collecting information, talking to people, even people who've flown on those helicopters in the days prior, who might not have witnessed directly but may have experienced something that is worth understanding and knowing about. And the really interesting thing about this terrible, tragic accident is that there were a lot of witnesses. There's a lot of film footage that's been recorded and made available, and so we're very likely that there's a lot of information that will help for people to understand and the ATSB to come to some conclusions about it.
So does that make the job of the investigators easier, or is that going to be actually such a mound of data that it could actually wind up taking longer to investigate?
For sure. I guess there's more information than otherwise you get, and there have been some other recent accidents where there weren't any witnesses to those accidents, and that makes it really hard. But in this case, because there are so many people that saw and filmed and recorded what happened, also there will be machines and equipment on board that will have recorded something. Black boxes, not like an airliner, but there will be information and systems that will have recorded information that it was helpful to the investigators. So yeah, they've got to piece it all together, I guess, with all of the witnesses and all of the film and footage and recordings. There'll be time that'll take to get through all of that, but there's a lot of information to get through and to find out what happened.
Yeah, now, I mean, again, while we don't want to talk about, speculate what could have caused the incident, we do also know that the pilot of the second helicopter did somehow manage to land safely despite the extensive damage to his craft. Now, you spent 15 years in the Royal Australian Air Force, so you're no stranger to flying under pressure. I mean, can you tell us how difficult that would have been for a pilot under those circumstances to bring the chopper in safely?
For sure. I mean, he did an amazing job. Seeing the front of the helicopter after it had that damage, you can see there, this is a bundle of wires sticking out the front of the instrument panel, and very likely that he would not have had all the information he would normally have about airspeed and power being generated and the information that you normally rely on to safely land the helicopter. So to innovate his way through what was happening and to be able to land that aircraft in those circumstances was truly amazing.
And finally, I just want to ask about, the difference between helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. Helicopters are generally known to be, or thought to be, more perilous aircrafts than fixed-wing planes. But can you talk about some of the different dangers associated with helicopters as opposed to, your standard airplane with a couple of wings coming off the side that we normally think about?
Sure thing. Well, a fixed-wing aircraft, by the name of it, has a fixed wing, and it generates lift by moving forward through the air. And a helicopter can do that, but it needs to get off the ground first and fly vertically. And so the rotor blades, which rotate and generate lift, are the way that the aircraft can move. So simply by having those wings rotating really fast and being able to change the pitch of those rotors and changing the way that they interact with the air makes it manoeuvrable. It's my understanding is, and I've only hovered a helicopter once just for fun, that it takes a lot of concentration to safely fly a helicopter.
Yeah, well, it takes a lot of concentration, I think, to fly any aircraft. But thank you so much, Keith Tonkin, who's flown a lot of them and is an expert on the field, to share a bit of insight into this terrible tragedy up in Queensland. Thank you so much for joining us, Keith.